Okay, let's start with the presentation. So, hello everyone, welcome. We have about 19 people joined today, which is good strength. Yes. Thank you for joining, spending part of your day with us, be it evening, morning,
Thanks for giving up your
night.
lunch hour.
Yeah, India is late night. I see a few folks from India.
Oh, thanks for joining. Yeah, it's late for you.
It is, it is. Uh, you may know me and Jennifer. We host the Trailblazer Analytics user group. We have been doing this since 2019. At that point of time, it was still Chicago Data Tribe. Then COVID happened. Instead of being hybrid and in person, we completely turned this over to be virtual. So people from all over the world and the country can join, no longer limited to Chicago only. So Tableau gave us the name Trailblazing Analytics US user group. Shubhadeep has joined. He runs India. There's one more in London, which is called UK, run by Manny. So there are three of us, three such places where it's running. Okay, a couple of housekeeping items. Today's session, it's for 90 minutes. Hopefully, we'll present for around 50 to 60 minutes, depending on how much Jennifer and I want to speak. Of course, uh, we will be recording this. We will share the slide deck. So you will be getting them either from our LinkedIn profiles or by going into the user group where you signed up for the meetup. And please feel free to drop your comments, questions into the chat at any point. Uh, Jennifer and I will be monitoring it, and we will be answering as much of your questions and taking as much of your point of views as much as we can. To kick things off, uh, I will start this off with a teaser video. Some of you might have. Yeah, someone might have kept their mic on. I have seen this happen just back. Yep, it is better. Thanks, Jen.
That's my mic causing.
To kick off, I will show a teaser video, which some of you might have seen either on Reddit or on my LinkedIn profile. But before that, and I promise you it's relevant to the data pipelines that Jennifer was just talking about. But before that, let's see what our agenda or roadmap is for today, and then we will take it from there. Okay, we are going to start off with the hook, which is basically talking about where we explore why we explore, why we explore the AI models. Then we'll talk about the business language, semantics. Everyone is talking about semantics, why that is important. The AI ready data, the difference between data formatted for human eyes and data structured for machine learning, it is not the same. Then we'll talk about guardrails, a lot of guardrails. Then we are going to talk about the future proofing, how our roles are changing, be data analysts, be data scientists, be data engineers. We'll look into some real world enterprise scenarios. And then, of course, we'll open this up for live Q&A. Okay.
I want
This,
to humanize this though before we start. You don't have to be an AI expert to know what we're talking about. This is strictly about data movement, whether it's coming from AI, applications, Salesforce. This is to kind of get your feet wet with what's coming for all of us.
Okay, so I'm going to start.
It me.
Okay, this black one is the pig. The rest of them are puppies, so just follow them.
How did you capture my work day so well? Let's all take a moment of silence for what we're dealing with during the day with this image.
Yep. The pig reaches it. The puppies were seeing it, but even more agitated, and it continues. Ultimately, let's see. Oh, hold on. Ultimately, let me forward this. The puppy the pig is eating it, and then it comes out while the puppies are still running around.
Okay, so my question is, who's the pig?
Okay.
Am I a puppy or am I a pig today?
Seriously. But yes, this is the video that I had found on Reddit, and it immediately reminded me of this presentation. I was like, this needs to go in there. Okay, but let me see. Okay, that was that. Okay, so, but why are we talking about this? This quote I did not find on my own, honestly. It was from our manager, who we usually have one-on-ones every 2 weeks. You have to have one-on-ones with your manager. We were talking about AI, and he showed me this quote. So, over a century ago, the essayist G.K. Chesterton, some of you might have heard about him or read his books, wrote these words in his book Orthodoxy. Just remember, it's more than a century ago. It was in 1908 that he wrote this. Life is not an illogicality, yet it is a trap for logicians. It looks just a little more mathematical and regular than it is. Its exactitude is obvious, but its inexactitude is hidden. Its wildness lies in wait. Chesterton was speaking about human philosophy, but accidentally gave us the best description of modern AI models and autonomous agentic workflows ever written. The reason it spoke so much to me is because of how we are looking at AI, or how most people, especially in the executive order, think about AI like it's everything it can do. It's not that. That is where the illogicality exists. That's where the inexactitude exists. So that is what we are going to focus on today with all the data and everything. Okay, what is the illusion of the path? So there we go. Like Chesterton's logicians, the puppies in the maze, which we just saw, were seduced by the obvious proximity of their goal. They kept crossing the correct vector but failed to recognize the messy, counterintuitive entrance. This is exactly what happens when we deploy large language models and AI agents over raw enterprise databases. AI models operate on pure mathematical deduction and statistical regularity. This is something I keep speaking about even in our teams and office contexts. Like, these are all mathematical deductions, they are all statistics. Everything depends on the guardrails, how good your data is, how good your data completeness is, how good your data accuracy is. That is what everything depends on. It's not like you have bad data and AI is magically going to fix it. That's not going to happen. They mistake visual or syntactic patterns for ground truth. When we build data pipelines for intelligent systems, our job is not merely to map regular paths or expose raw tables. We must construct, exploit unambiguous entry points. That is what Chesterton was talking about, that prevent pure logic engines from running endless loops against the wire mesh. That is what we were seeing. The pig, while that could reach it, the puppies were going in an endless loop without actually reaching the vector at any point of time. That is what we need to prevent, even in the case of AI. Jen, any points?
Well, sometimes if you try and control all this yourselves while you're working, your coworkers don't exactly follow it.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as we try to control everything, like for example, I monitor our APIs, I monitor our data back and forth, I build some dashboards, but I got a new manager at work and she's not ever seen Salesforce, and all of this is a new language to her. So that just kind of, how do I lead the puppies to where I'm sitting?
Yep.
Right. So this is all, it's not really a trap. It's just you got to learn how to be a good guide for everybody else. Like, that's all I have to say. You're a data translator and even sometimes a data psychologist to everyone else. And that's how this works. You know, it'd be interesting if we followed this up to hear people's real life experience with what they're dealing with every day. But just be prepared. And one of the things I like to do that has to do with this quote and the video we watched is I like to kind of just make a 10 points of, you know, common situations that I see at work, whether it's data or the people or collaborating with teams. I just kind of say like, you know, Salesforce is multi-tenant. Salesforce is in the cloud. Salesforce has limits. Here's a list of the limits. If you're a developer, the limits are different. If you're a user, the limits are different. But, you know, I like to kind of just do like rules of engagement to kind of get in between trying to control what people think, what people expect, and who pays you. Because at the end of the day, the HPP wins. Even if everything's, if they say we want everyone to be a pig, then everyone's a pig. Does that make sense?
It does. You're absolutely right.
So I like to just kind of have a fact sheet for everyone so that when it gets a little too crazy, I say, hey, here's where the food is. If you want the food, great. And here's how you get to it. But you know, if you don't want the food, that's your problem.
Correct. That's fine. Okay, good example. Then, well, we have been talking about illogicality from G.K. Chesterton, so let's talk about the logician's trap. We again going back to the pigs and the puppies. The puppies they were not far away from the answer. They were at it. They just didn't recognize that that was the entry point, right? That is what was happening. That is what Jen was saying. You cannot take them to the food. You can guide them. You cannot take them there. When your AI copilot or agentic workflow fails, it's rarely a failure of processing power, math skills, or baseline LLM intelligence. It's an architectural failure of the pipeline to signpost the real world entry point. So there's a maze. Everything is a maze, especially in the world of AI. You don't know actually what is happening behind the scene. And then we are trusting, or someone is trusting that data too much to say that, yes, that's right.
Or trusting that AI, so everyone on this call is going to run into this. I see people all the time saying, oh, just hook it up. It'll know. It's AI. Like it's magic, like it's a crystal
Correct.
ball.
It's not.
And that's where really bad things end up happening. Because it doesn't know unless you give it guardrails.
Yep. I don't know you guys have heard this or not, but there are some cases where the judges have thrown out the cases because they were using AI to generate their case, and that happened to be taking in whatever those laws and guidelines.
Actually true. My ex-husband is an attorney, and basically they've turned AI into like lawyer in a box. But
Right.
if you use too much and you go in, they can actually throw it out because a robot did it and a human didn't do it.
Yep.
Depending on your judge. If you have a judge that likes AI, maybe you have a better chance. But I know that he told me his primary job is to police the AI that writes all the, you know,
all the cases and words. Yeah. And there are cases where AI has said that such and such example exists somewhere, and then the judge is like, no, it doesn't. So yeah, just be a little careful when using AI in some contexts. I'm not talking about lawyers. My cousin is a lawyer, so I'm going to stop there. Okay. Next, the error of deduction. Why is there so much error, and why did Jen and I think of doing this? So let's look at how this plays out in the corporate data. We are all in the world of corporate, right? Or even if you're a student, you will at some day be in corporate or deal with corporate in some way or the other. To an automated logic engine, word revenue looks like a standard mathematically exact column label. We all know what revenue is. The system runs complex statistical regressions, SQL aggregations on this table with absolute arithmetic authority, expecting the word to carry a singular universal truth across the entire enterprise. But is that the real world? I hope not, because in the world of finance, they define revenue strictly by organized gap contract bookings. Sales defines it by the total closed pipeline deals. And accounting defines revenue by deferred recognition or data cash collected without an explicitly mapped semantic translation layer. And that's why we speak so much about semantics. The AI agent is left to guess. It doesn't know what we are talking about anymore. It produces a result that is arithmetically flawless, but contextually catastrophic. Imagine you are running an AI on revenue as a sales executive, but you are getting the definitions for finance. How wrong will that be compared to an accounting person who is looking at accounting but getting the sales results? That cannot happen, right? That's going to be the biggest flaw in the numbers, and these are numbers that people depend on.
I think that it's really important to define here that it's perspective. So I don't know for anyone else on the call, like I'm not a words person. I'm a visual, I'm a pictures person. So I see what's on here and I'm relating it to what's in my head. I'll give you a really good example. We team at my work that built a project with AI according to how they saw the process, but then deployed it to different teams. And every team said, hey, that's not how we do it. We do it like this. And then there's, a dozen versions of it. So one size doesn't fit all is really the takeaway here. And semantic shifts, you don't really want the AI to be the deterministic process. It'll come up with the best way to do it. And it may redo your entire org if you let it do that. So you always, what you're going to see coming from all your teams who are implementing AI is you're going to have to get in the middle of what you know to be correct with data, what they're doing, and each team's perspective of that data. I hope that makes sense, but kind of, a 360-degree view of what that process is doing and who's consuming it.
Also, please remember that AI has deleted someone's hard disk.
Oh, I told the story the last time that I wrote a simple query. I said, can you just write this SQL query for me? And then it said, I'm going to redo your entire GCP repository.
Ouch.
I didn't do it, obviously, but that's what Gemini was like, I don't like how this is structured. And it's like, I just want the query. So you have to be super careful. I mean, if it took one person with the right access to kind of just not look at what it generated and throw that code in there, it would actually rewrite your repository. So we're going to have to be watchtowers. Like we have enough on our plate as it is, right? We get to be a watchtower too.
Yep, we have to be. Also, please put your questions, comments. You have something to say, please do put it in the chat, and we will keep, as we said, we'll monitor it. We will bring it
And we
out.
are so empathetic because we're feeling this right now. I've had weekends that I've had to just sit and think about what the shift in the industry to, like, we had our jobs to kind of a precise science, and now we have this coming in. It's kind of a lot. It's kind of a shock to your system, but I promise you it gets better with time. It's just change is always hard. right? And this is a big change to our entire industry. But if you get ahead of it, it's so much easier.
Yeah. Okay. Next, there's a persona, and this is something I added today morning. Can anyone guess who am I talking about? So, born in the late 1960s, multi-million dollar food and hospitality empire owner, and I'm talking about two people. Uh, Primetime TV host with millions of viewers, best-selling book authors, iconic, highly recognizable visual brand and catchphrases, operates multi-location restaurant chains. Can anyone point out who am I talking about? You can write it, you can unmute it, whatever. No one is taking a guess on who this is?
That could be a lot of people.
Yes, Lauren.
Come on, our Jeopardy. We got some Jeopardy people in this crowd. I know it.
Lauren, we can't hear you.
I'll take born in the late 60s for 500, Alex.
Okay, looks like no one is answering.
Our brains are fried from all the data.
Yep, Rakesh is right. One is Gordon Ramsay. Who's the other one?
Woo!
One is Gordon Ramsay. Yep. Okay, let's do this. First is Gordon Ramsay, and the second one is Guy Fieri. One of, well, I like both of them, honestly. I like Gordon Ramsay a little more. So, to a pure SQL query or an automated AI agent matching CRM tags, Gordon Ramsay and Guy Fieri, check every single one of those 6 boxes identically. They are statistically identical records in the database, right? But if you task an AI copilot with generating a personalized marketing outreach or executive event invitation to those 2 records based purely on those structured CRM tags, you get a hilarious catastrophic persona failure. Yep. Imagine inviting Gordon Ramsay to a flame embroidered shirt launch or inviting Guy Fieri to endorse minimalist French gastronomy. You know what is going to happen. None of this is going to work out. The database fields were 100% accurate, verified, and clean. But without semantic, qualitative context, pure mathematical matching traps the AI in a logical hallucination. So, what we are trying to prevent constantly is that hallucination from happening. We don't want this to happen. We don't never want this to happen. So, just looking at the fields or the tags not going to do it. We need the semantic layers. We need more context to everything that we are doing. Jen, you have anything to add?
This one is super interesting because I have had some exercises where people said, just go use like Google, right? That uses AI. And if you put certain words in there, it doesn't know the difference. Like it doesn't know the human difference between, if you put, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Cockroaches was one of them, right? Because it's looking at the words, it's dividing the words up. And typically there's, when you build AI, you have to put what's called an abstraction layer in there. So like at my work, certain dates correlate to certain things that happen here. So if I was to build any kind of AI-ish database, I have to put this layer of what this means to my, my company. So, if you just go put in just a one word phrase or not enough details, the AI on Google will do the same thing. It'll just hallucinate and say, well, I think you mean all these things, right? When really we meant to get one thing. And that's why you hear people say like, gosh, when I try and like use Google now, I get like all these things that aren't like what I was actually looking for. It's the same thing in our jobs. It's the same thing with what everybody's building out there with agents, you know. So once again, this takes me back to the watchtower, and we use this example here because I know everybody's probably hearing semantic layers, and you know, we always had the little semantic feature in CRMA for years, right? We could do sentiment detection.
Correct.
None of that means anything unless you give it specifics. And if you don't have that data in a column, it doesn't matter. Right? So don't get too caught up in the industry when you hear these terms. Just know that if you need something specific, the data has to have it. There's nothing more than that. If it's not there in the data, the AI isn't going to pick it up, or any other process for that matter.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is dwelling metric definitions, which we have been talking about for the last few slides. So we are going to examine 3 classic examples.
Brain to look at. I'm just like, oh my gosh, just give me the layman terms here.
Yep. So we are going to examine 3 classic examples where semantic shifts create the logician's risk for AI. The revenue. If finance sees gap, which we were just talking about, recognized revenue and sales sees booked TCV, an unchecked AI agent will happily combine booked future pipelines with historical cash flows, overstating active performance. Not something that we want. If it is an active customer, finance counts them as customers with active billing subscriptions. Sales counts anyone who completed onboarding. An AI agent queries the user database and assumes anyone with a profile is actively paying revenue. Not true. Every person has a different definition of active customer. In our org, we have something called status. If we just give AI everything and we don't explain what each of the status fields mean, then that will not be great.
I have to do this a lot, especially as I'm defining event logs at work. So for those of you who work with Salesforce event logs, that comes in with a bunch of IDs and a process. But which team owns that? The event logs don't know. Any kind of model we build on it doesn't know. I have to go in and make these columns, right? And say, is this GTM or CX? And then, because a lot of times we'll throw like all of our process in, say through SnapLogic. But in the logs, you don't know which team's process because they're all going through SnapLogic, right? So you can even take this down to a process standpoint of everything that's going on the back end of Salesforce. Who owns it? And for those of us who have a lot of technical debt, that's very hard to answer. So a lot of times we don't even address like adding these columns until it's a problem.
And technical debt keeps growing from every month to month. It keeps growing, especially if your orgs are old. It's horrendous. Jen recently had an issue where she was asked to delete a field. Remember?
Which issue? There's been a couple since.
You were asked to delete a field in CRM Analytics somewhere in the data flow, and you were like, oh no.
Right. Yeah. So we have, long story short, somebody at our company thought that, so we still have CRMA, we're just not using it heavily. And we have courtesy licenses. I still own everything I built a long time ago, like since 2018. It's just sitting in there. Some of it's used, some of it's not. Guess what happened? Somebody decided that they wanted to delete an opportunity field, and in the dependencies it said, oh, wave data flow, wave lens, wave whatever. And nobody here even knew how to, they were like, what's wave? Because they don't know what the logs mean. And they couldn't actually move forward with any projects. By the way, we had max amount of fields used on opportunities. So unless these were deleted, we couldn't build more. Guess who had to go in there and unravel all of that? But if I wasn't working here, I don't know who would have done it, because Salesforce support can't get into your org and do things for you. They will not touch your code. So it's interesting to me. And by the way, it was also picked up in Opsera, one of our deployment products was going into Wave and picking up those dependencies as well and telling the developers this needs to be fixed. So what we were missing is that context, right? We were missing the context that Wave is CRMA and what a data set is and how to fix it. Now, if anybody would have had a brain cell, they could have just thrown that in Gemini and said, how do I fix this dependency? But you still have to go in and do it. So there's the
identity. At least you would know what it is talking about.
Yeah. So this is just one example, but even if you can get Gemini to give you the how, can you? Do you have a license? Do you have access? There's a lot of little housekeeping details that if you make, like, say, an agent to do these things, if you don't add that context layer or an abstraction layer in, good luck.
Good example. Okay, last but not the least on the slide, we have net margin. So operations calculates fully burdened margin. Sales calculates the gross profit minus client discounts, of course. The AI evaluates product profitability while completely ignoring baseline server overhead. So the code didn't break, the SQL was valid, but the definition, again, it was ambiguous. And that is what we are trying to prevent constantly. The other thing that Chesterton spoke about was wildness. So let's look into it. Why does this happen? Because humans and machines parse clean data in fundamentally different ways. What humans tolerate.
So much. What we tolerate. We're like Westworld.
What we tolerate, exactly. We tolerate, we tolerate more than the AI does. Because remember, we keep speaking about how much is in our head that you cannot put down unless you see the situation coming up again.
Everyone tries to get everything out of my brain. I said, it took 30 years to get here. It's going to take me 30 years to get it out.
People naturally navigate implicit, messy context. We easily overlook merged header cells, free-form text notes, missing dates, or implicit assumptions like everyone knows Q3 refers to the fiscal calendar. It doesn't. I have a point here. Bear with me.
Fiscal date's different.
Exactly. Salesforce has a very different date. Salesforce quarter does not start in the beginning of January.
I think everyone on this call has dealt with making custom formula fields for their company's dates, and no matter what analytics tool you use, right? It's so much fun, especially when dates aren't handled well in the first place. So can you imagine what the AI is doing?
That's exactly why I like quoting. Remember Pete's presentation in Midwest Dreaming? His presentation was titled "Dates Are Jerks."
Yes, dates are jerks. I think everyone here knows. I mean, I swear I've done this for how many years with Salesforce, and I'm like, what time zone am I in? What's UTC? Like, are we in daylight savings? Like, oh my gosh, yes. And that's not counting the formatting, just trying to figure out where you are to a field's, when that date was captured. You almost, so what I've done is I've started just keeping like a calculator next to me and say, like, where am I? Where is this data? What time zone conversions? And then I have probably 7 fields to every date that convert it to all the things I need, so I don't have to deal. But most people are building AI and they're not doing that. And they're just like, system timestamps, fine, right? And then people say, well, I'm in California. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Also, India, because India is there. For India, the fiscal year starts on April 1st. So just saying, well, Q3 refers to fiscal calendar does not give us much. To us, maybe because we have the context. To an AI, absolutely not. It's not going to work out.
Well, all of my management's in India, so even trying to keep my calendar aligned with their calendars, like we can meet early in the morning or late at night, right? Like it's the same thing with the AI, right? The AI is trying to do that if you tell it to, but if you don't, you're gonna get what you get and hope it works.
Okay, but What pure logic demands? An AI agent lacks human intuition. To operate safely, it requires flat, tidy rows, structured field schemas, machine parsable data types, and explicit contextual definitions preserved in metadata. We keep going back to the semantic layer. We keep going back to the semantic layer. Last but not the least, the pipeline mandate. We must transition data preparation from visual presentations for humans to rigorous structured pipelines for models. That is the part we are still missing. There's a gap there. Our data design must leave zero room for mathematical assumptions or guessing. The difference between what we are thinking, what an AI can do, the gap between is what we need to fill. And it is not an easy task.
Right. And I mean, I think everybody here knows that, or we wouldn't be in this call. Right? Because all this means at the end of the day, because we're data people, right? Do you remember all the data 101 concepts? Like you need to ID things like appropriately, right? There has to be like all the columns have to line up correctly. Like, so you have kind of the structure of the data that needs to be kept while adding all these details. And we all know that the more details you add, the more rows, the longer the processing time. So this gets very complicated. Trying to keep your, I'm trying to figure out what data optimization. So not only do you have to do number 2 and number 3 on this slide, right? But you also have to figure out how to optimize it so you're not spending a ton of tokens just adding a world of data to it.
Correct.
That also, to me is kind of the thing nobody tells you, almost like they want you to spend the tokens, right?
Mm-hmm. Also, I just shared an XKCD on dates. Have a look at it. It's hilarious. Actually, let me open it up. There we go.
Yeah, we have to put some comedic relief in between what we're talking about, because I know some people who are watching this are going to be like, how did I go from like having control of what I do to, and the data is evolving so quickly. Like, I know it just seemed like overnight somebody told me, oh, we're adding like an MCP to Salesforce, or we're adding this model to Salesforce. I'm like, what? Right? And then I had to go in and get in the middle of it.
Let's see.
Don't expect that your teams will share what they're doing. Expect it to happen.
This is the XKCD one that I love talking about a lot. Public service announcement. Our different, I cannot read it here. I need to go to the screen. Okay. Our different ways of writing dates as numbers can lead to, let's see if I can increase the screen. Yeah. Okay. Can lead to online confusion. That's why
it looks like a Rosetta Stone.
Yep. That's why in 1988, ISO set a global standard numeric date format. This is the correct way to write numerical dates. The following formats are therefore discouraged. See the number of ways you can write the dates. And this is how most orgs still behave. So going back to AI, this is what AI is asking for, not this. Especially because if you're looking at, let's say, 12th of January 2026, I'm just making up a number currently. In India or in UK, that date is basically day. So it would be 12/1/2027. In US, it would be 1/12/2027. So if you are in UK and you're reading this, you might definitely say that this is December 1st, 2027, and not realize it's in US format. So that's why this thing was done. Does that make sense?
It better make sense.
Okay.
I think we all are data people here, and we know that the data should be, the data should be structured effectively. Otherwise, we wouldn't have jobs.
Yep. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This is our two views of clean data. Sorry, our blueprint for making our data AI ready. First one, the shift one or the structure is eliminate visual grouping gaps and merged cells. Every single row in the table must carry flat replicated key columns so that every record is completely self-contained. There's no second thought about it. This has to be done. Then the shift two is the metadata. Convert free-floating textual nuance, footnotes, and asterisk indicators into rigid queryable database schema columns. Also, you cannot leave AI without doing this. Last but not the least, the shift three, which is the temporal anchoring. Replace implicit text like Q3 2025 with explicit ISO timestamps, just like we showed, and standardized physical offset parameters. Most cases, especially in CRM analytics, you have an offset which you can say when your fiscal date starts. So use those things to explain to AI what you're talking about.
I'm thinking, funny that our skills for making data. You remember when we made data flows and data sets with before recipes came out? Everything that we learned with that flat data is applicable moving forward.
Forward, absolutely, yeah.
Flat data moves faster. Every one of your little choices up in the data flow builder, it relates to this.
Correct.
So believe it or not, you're ahead of most people building right now. You just don't know it.
Yep. So when every row is self-describing, an AI agent doesn't have to infer. It simply reads. That is our end goal. We want it to read. We don't want it to infer. We don't want it to say, I think this is what you're talking about. No, we don't want that.
And it reads just like when a data flow is processing. It's going from node to node to node, picking up each of the data, doing what it's supposed to with it. It's just like imagine like millions of data flows all pushed together, and that's really what it's doing on the back end. That's why we have data centers and whatnot. But when you're building it, you're actually just doing one at a time.
Yep. Okay, back to the wildness, but this time, what are the fences for the wildness? Once we have the data structured, we place fences for the wilderness. That's what we were talking about. A 3-tier guardrail system protecting our production environment. The first of them is the input shield. Intercepts incoming human prompts. It detects adversarial prompt injections, strips sensitive PII before it reaches the model, and forces the request into a predictable machine-readable parameter set. Then we have the context anchor. It forces the agent's logic to operate strictly within bounded enterprise database schemas. If the user asks for data outside the anchored schema boundary, the agent is programmed to admit ignorance rather than invent a response. What we are seeing, what Jen was talking about mostly in AI, especially with the case of lawyers, it was inventing responses. It wasn't ignoring it. It was inventing responses just to create a doc. That is not what we want. And the output gate, which acts as the final compliance layer, it scans mathematical outputs for hallucinatory logic errors, masks restricted internal records based on user permissions, and validates business decisions before delivery. So, yeah, there are too many things that we need to talk about in there. Also, I don't know you guys are hearing or not. It's currently pouring in Chicago. It's completely dark out here. Like, there's nothing visible.
I'll send you my 106 degrees outside. How about that?
Yeah, our temperature is high, but it's raining cats and dogs, and it's completely dark. You cannot see it.
Stay safe, because we need you, because we need more of this in the future. But you hear about the hallucination. I want to hit on this because kind of, I don't know, when we just got thrust into this AI world, everybody's like, it hallucinates. And really, it's all down to the data, right? Like how good the data is, how good your inputs in. Yeah, it can hallucinate, like my example, right? Like instead of just writing a query, it decided let's rebuild where the data came from. That's kind of a hallucination, like, but that's its job, right? So for example, if you're a cook in a kitchen and you were told, go make cereal, they say, well, a better use of the kitchen would be to make like a 5-course meal, right? Yep. So that's because somebody put how to make a 5-course meal in there. And so the AI is like, why would you want to make cereal when you can do all of this? You have to tell it, well, that's all I want to do right now. Right. I know that I was writing my review this week for work because it's that time of year, right? And you can say when you're using AI, and some of you are experts on here, some of you are just, like I said, getting your feet wet with all this. But models outside of Salesforce, all the typical ones that are out there, you can say something like, this is what I do at work. Tell me why it matters. And it'll tell you why it matters. And you go, oh, that sounds better than what I would write, right? I'm going to put that in my review. It's interesting because when you do that, it seems like it's magic, right? It seems like, wow, this really knows what it does. But then when you put structured data, like your own data from your own company in there, it doesn't have all the, like business courses and all the big input in there. That's your job. That's your job. You have to put in everything it needs to know to give the best answers back. I hope that makes sense. It's interesting to me, like how much there is to learn, but it's very simple at the end of the day. I think building it's harder than using it, for sure.
100%. 100%. Okay. Well, we were reporters at one point of time just saying what the data is telling. That was an yesterday thing. There's a paradigm shift that we are all less hearing about for data professionals. As we said, it is not just analysts, it's scientists, it's engineers, it's architects. Anyone who's doing this work in data is looking at it, to the extent that a friend of mine pinged me yesterday. He knows someone who finished his master's in data science from Wisconsin and is looking for a job, but he's looking for a data science job. And I was like, dude, you need to figure it out. You did study data science. Sure. You cannot be limited to data science. You have to expand your views to everything that it encompasses, from being a data engineer to a data architect to a data visualizations expert to AI to everything to machine learning, everything. Do not focus on things that say data scientist. We need to come out of that mindset.
An important takeaway here is, like I was telling you, when we had a team was building, whatever over in their department, and then when they came to me and found out that that's not how people use the data, it goes back to perspective, right? You can be the best builder, you can be the best dev, you can be the best at CRMA even. It doesn't mean that what you build is useful for the users.
Correct.
Audience counts here.
Audience counts, exactly. Also, please remember, users are not 100% always right.
But if they're not happy, it makes your life pretty bad.
Yeah, Jen and I have an example of someone telling, why is there pink on a chart? Remember that?
Oh yeah, or the lady that I had in my consulting that wanted all the Halloween colors on her CRMA dashboards, and I was like, that's not really a good choice, and that's what. And it's like she just did it to do it.
Yeah, we also have to think about accessibility. So some of you might have seen that I took the UX designer exam on Saturday. I posted about it. One of the things that keeps coming back from there is accessibility. CRM Analytics has a lot of accessibility, but thanks, Lauren. Accessibility is very, very, very important. You cannot design something anywhere, be it Tableau, be it CRM analytics, be it AI, if there's no accessibility. It has to be paramount in whatever we are doing. Okay, talking about paramount and everything, yesterday analysts were reporters. That's where that's what we were talking about. We spent most of our time hard compiling historical tables and mapping statistical dashboards for human analysis, manual human analysis maybe, not just human analysis. But today we use augmented analysis. Copilots generate SQL, Python scripts in seconds, shifting our daily effort towards prompt curation, code validation. That is what Jen was talking about. We need to validate code. That is what is our job currently. So it doesn't go like Jen, you gave an example, it wanted to rewrite your whole GCP. That's not what we want to do. We are asking for a SQL query. Please do not go and mess up everything.
So I want to put a positive in here because we're kind of going back and forth between trying to, catch up to everything. But a positive is with the introduction of like our corporate AI that I'm allowed to use here at work, it's taken the boundary away from me needing like GCP engineers, even SOQL. Like if I'm not in it all the time, I can't do it. SOQL, SQL, all the things. Now I can just go and tell Gemini, like, write this for me, right? I mean, you still have to check it, but I can remember having to sit there for hours, go, oh yeah, how do I do a group by again? All of that. So that's a plus in our industry to me because it takes, you don't have to rely on another team, another person, or hope that you had a good day when you wrote that.
Yep. Also, what I'm doing is I have Claude from Office. So what I have started doing is when I'm designing a new dashboard, I give it all the parameters that I can think of I want in there, and what is the context, what I am ultimately gaining from it, or what the user wants to gain from it. And it creates a really good mock-up for me. And then I can go and create it in CRM Analytics. That's fine. But it
or
creates
you can strip the JSON out and put it in whatever program you're using to find like that dependency.
I've done that.
That's what I did. Yeah, you can, and you don't have to understand what all that code means. You can say find whatever in this.
Yeah, I've done that. I actually have saved over an hour taking a very old recipe which was created before all the new things came up, all the new versions of dates and things came up. And I asked it to use the documents that exist for CRM Analytics online, maybe Medium, Salesforce Help, Salesforce Blogger, then Johan's blog, everything, and then take all of them, tell me if this can be streamlined or made better. And I actually saved over half an hour from that one exercise for the recipe, which is a big deal. Okay, but where are we tomorrow? Tomorrow, analysts become pipeline architects. So yeah, some of you can change your title to maybe pipeline architects. Your value will no longer be measured by how quickly you can drag fields into a BI canvas or answer a single question. It will be measured by how effectively you design the semantic definitions, context guardrails, and data contracts that allow autonomous agents to navigate your enterprise safely. That is where we are trying to go. We are not trying to go back. We are not going to the idea that, okay, give me sales by all the customers. That is not where we are going, or revenue by all the customers. That's an old thing. We are asking AI to do it. Give me the top 5 customers with one sentence. We are not going back. But to get that answer right, we need all the semantic models, all the semantic definitions. We need the context guardrails. We need the data contracts to be correct so that the AI agents can navigate and finally answer it.
And the layman term to this for anybody here that's like, wow, that's like a lot of word salad for me, because it is for me too, is before we were just working with the data, right? So for all of our jobs, whatever it is with Salesforce, we were just structuring the data and kind of putting it into the UI and letting it do its thing. Now we're in charge of where it comes from, the process, where it lands, and how, like, the pathway it wants to go. So think of like before we were doing a circle, now we have to do the square, outside the circle, all the corners and all the lines, right? And it's a mind shift because you were really doing that before, but you just didn't think about it, right? And now we have to think about every angle of what we're doing, because data is the commodity and the process determines the data. So you're now a process and data person. Sometimes, titles. So for anybody here, the changes in the industry are really crazy. I've gone from analyst, admin, engineer, and now they want to change me to an architect. Nobody knows what. Just call me like a data behavioralist, right? Like at the end of the day.
At this point, titles in the world of data don't matter. It's like we're doing everything.
We're just data people.
We're just data people. Leave us out of all the titles that you think are there for us. Okay. But next, we'll contrast two operational approaches side by side. First, the dueling logic paradigms. Glossary binding. So what we are contrasting is basically the obvious exactitude, which is the unchecked AI, versus the grounded logic, which is Chesterton's AI. I'm not going to spell out what I wrote there, but that is what it is. Okay, so glossary binding, unchecked AI queries, unmapped columns, and guesses meanings. Grounded AI operates through a hardened semantic layer with explicit business glossaries. That is what we are looking for. Next, we have ingestion engine. It's unchecked AI imports, it's messy, it's human designed spreadsheets directly. Hopefully none of us like spreadsheets. I still don't. Grounded AI enforces strict data schemas and normalizes raw imports before ingestion. Also, Carolina, we will come back to your question. That's a great question. We will come back to it. Validation flows. So unchecked AI relies purely on model probability output. Grounded AI forces verification against trusted accounting ledgers and data contracts. That is what we have been seeing or talking about. The validations. PII protection, extremely important. Unchecked AI exposes raw database tables to external LLM APIs. Grounded AI enforces systemic masking rules directly at the ingestion point. None of us want our data, be it company data or private data, personal data, to go be in the free open world. So those PII protections become extremely important. Masking becomes important. Encryption becomes very important. So all of those need to be there. They cannot disappear from what we are talking about. Well, let's move on to the interactive pipeline. Data optimization observation are companies. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Jenny, you want to talk about anything in the previous slide?
I was busy answering a question. But that was a really good question.
That is a really good question, yes.
So this, don't get too hung up on this. This is just all the things we already do. I mean, honestly, it's just fancy terms. It's still data underneath all of this. And, if you just follow data 101, all these will come naturally. I really want to stress, even though you have to kind of learn and be familiarized with this terminology, you can always just throw it into a search if somebody asks you and say, what does this mean? But it's good that when you're working with different teams, different engineers, data architects, anything in your company, that they might use this term, but you know it as a different term. So this is more just to get yourself used to the variety of ways people will be talking about checked and unchecked AI.
Okay, we have 2 more slides left before we go to we open up for Q&A.
Oh, this never happens. There's no confused C-levels. Everybody laugh. This never happens. Never.
That never happens. Good one.
C-levels that never went in Salesforce. That doesn't happen.
No. So let's put into practice together. Look at this real world diagnostic scenario. Okay. An enterprise deploys a financial copilot. The CFO asks, what is our active quarterly revenue run rate? The agent runs its queries, returns a number that is 24% higher than the gap ledger. But there are zero syntax errors. There are no corrupted fields in the database. What just happened? Where's the hidden inexactitude in this scenario? That is what we're looking for. Did the model fetch unclosed CRM draft opportunities because run rate wasn't anchored to a gap ledger table? Could have happened. How would your current organization define revenue rate? Something we keep asking. If an AI agent queried your data warehouse right now, think about it. It doesn't have any semantic layer, it doesn't have any context. How is it going to do this? It is going to give you, it might give you 24% higher than the gap ledger, or it might give you 50% less than the gap ledger. You never know. So we need to audit these pipelines. We need to audit them as frequently as possible. We need to see if things have changed. I'm not sure what happened. Hold on. Okay. Last slide. I promise after that
slide was too over our heads with that gap acronym.
Yep. Okay. So
is that a gap, like a regular gap, like a gap in something, or the extra A means more?
The GAAP gap. Okay. Before we, and I'm not going to talk about finance here, please. No. Someone else wants to speak about finance, please do, but I'm not speaking about finance. Before we move to the QA session, we will anchor with the two foundational principles. The first one, the path is obvious, the whole hidden. Your AI tools aren't failing because LLMs are dumb. They, of course, are not dumb. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. They fail because our raw data pipelines contain unmapped gaps. This gap is GAP. Ambiguous metric names and missing context. Like the puppies in the maze, the logic traps them inside an obvious visual pattern. Remember, the puppies were just running around, so it was in the loop. That's what happens. And so many times when we run Gemini or Claude or Copilot, we see that it's in the loop. It doesn't realize that it needs to come out of the loop. Sometimes I have to literally open a new chat and then say, forget whatever you thought in the last half an hour and let's restart the whole thing.
Oh, I hate that when that happens. I actually broke our corporate Gemini once. I put something in there and for 10 minutes, it just kept spitting out random text like a dictionary. And then I showed it to somebody and they were like, you broke it. And it was in a loop. I mean, I didn't really break it. I just broke it in the question I was asking. But it's interesting to me that, and there's a character limit, just like everything else we work with. Yeah. So your answer is in characters, right?
Correct.
And so if somebody just doesn't do one thing right in what they've put in to like the model you're using, you can actually go off that character limit pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like when you're building your data flows. I'm going to keep going back.
It's the same thing. Right? Yeah, data prep, data flow, whatever you want to call it. It's
how we do comma and then how many characters.
Correct, exactly. Okay, the last principle. Guard your foundational logic. Please, please, please do this. Scaling your model from 7 billion to 700 billion parameters will not fix it. Or will not fix the ambiguous business definitions. Providing ambiguous assumptions to a perfect deductive engine simply generates garbage at a grander, more confident scale. That is why we are talking about garbage in, robo out, because historically, it would take time to figure out that there is garbage data in. With AI, that is no longer the case. You will see that garbage part coming out much, much faster and much sooner. So data has to be precise, it has to be nice, it has to be good. for all of this to work. True data engineering is architectural work. It is not an IT software patch. It is architecture. That's what Jen was talking about. Her title is changing, might change to architect. It's not a software patch. So, Carolina, to your question about codes, no, I don't code. I code only CRM analytics. I code SQL, SQL, SOQL. I don't code anything else. I hate coding. So, yeah, I am not a coder. I don't like doing that, but I do know how to read codes, and that is all you need in the world of AI currently. If you're not a coder, at least you know what, if there is code is breaking, you can point out, okay, this makes no sense, please go and fix this sentence. Or you can tell someone that you read the code and that makes no sense to the code, and you can go and fix it. That is one part of how you deal with this ecosystem. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And we are opening the floor to discussions. But let's take these two questions. How is your team currently tackling unified glossaries when sales and finance, or take any two examples? Strongly disagree on metric definitions. I can give you an example from what I have seen. Cost to a lot of utility. So our company works in commercial real estate utility data management and billings. So part of it is cost, which is an extremely important field. Now, if you're looking at utility rates, you need to remove the taxes and then provide the cost in one case. In the other case, you have to provide, with all the taxes and charges and everything, you have to provide the cost. So cost now becomes two fields. Which cost are we talking about? Both are called cost, but what are we talking about? And we would love to know what tools or frameworks you are using to ground your model context inside your enterprise SQL environments. Okay, let's open this up and I'm going to stop sharing. Let's open this.
You can be like me, where other teams are doing this, and then when it doesn't work, they bring me in. Like, I'm not the one building it. I have the people calling me. Like, I had a guy call me last week I got told to make a data dictionary, and he works over in support. He has no idea how sales and everybody else is doing it. So it's interesting to me, how you multi-level design data dictionaries or a data index, right?
Yep. Okay, so we have two people joined here, Chatura and Ama. Awesome. Very, very good friend of mine. We met at Dreaming in Data. It was called Dreaming in Data.
Right?
Yeah. It was called Dreaming in Data at that point of time. Not Data in Dreaming, Dreaming in Data.
Dreaming in Data.
Dreaming in Data.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I keep my one muted because otherwise you will hear both of the.
That's right. Thanks, Ama. So, both of them are working in AI, by the way. So, you guys want to share your views? Everyone else also. Lauren, Shubhadeep, Angela, Vitali.
Bridge this gap for us, man. Welcome to the party. You're either on one side or the other, because, okay, before you start, I work at a Fortune 500, a giant one, right? And so we have these AI experts, and then we have those of us that are on the ground, working during the day, fighting fires. And it's super interesting to me. The AI people are constantly pinging me saying, especially because they don't have the context. So how do you bridge all of this, right? How are we bridging what the ground users have versus where you sit up there building the mothership, right? That's the $1 million question here.
Yep.
No pressure. No pressure.
Sorry, actually, I didn't get the question properly. Can you explain it again?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of nutshell Sayantani's last slide. So if you're the AI expert and you're building, and I'm joking around the mothership.
Actually, first thing, we are not expert. We are like beginner in the beginner.
An expert for those of us like me that are the firefighters down here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're not. So when you're building, you need context.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if context is spread between 100 people throughout the business, how are you gathering all of that and optimizing it into what you're building? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because you don't know, you're just building it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I'm not too familiar. I'm in the beginner level. But one thing we are specialized in the data cleaning part using Python. Yeah, that is what we are familiar.
Yeah, well, no, that's really important because I think every company is going through this. Like what do we even have in the first place, right? So if you're new at AI or you've been in the industry 30 years, it's the same thing. What do we have? And it's full of a lot of technical debt. It's full of complexity debt, right? Like who owns this? Do they even work here? When was that built?
Yeah.
You know, and I feel I'm very empathetic to anybody at my company who's building AI, especially the new people, the AI engineers, because they're like, was just given to me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
So from AI it is coming, that is
Actually, yeah, so that's a good question. Actually, so we always need to focus on, we always talking about clean data, but a lot of people don't have a specific process to do that because, for example, because I am a computation neuroscience research scientist, and in my stream, actually, I have to deal with tons of complex data sets, but we are also using different techniques to clean data as much as we can because if not, I mean, in the healthcare industry, it's really hard and the risk is really high if we have that kind of a situation. So we always need to take care of this data in a proper way, but still we are looking for different possibilities, tools, methods, and I know it's like as we go process, but we always try our best to maintain them in a proper way. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter the technology and the tool we use, but we still need to focus on the basics, I would say.
I'm waving at the people that are leaving so they know that I care.
Yeah.
Well, so the reason I'm asking this is because I'm seeing where, you know, a lot of new people come into companies to go down this path, which is new, right? And I don't see a lot of bridging going on. I see the AI being built, and then I see everybody working with the technical debt and the business processes, right? And then they're like, why doesn't this work?
Huh.
It's interesting because just working with the data alone, you don't know. You just are building on the data that's there, and then when you have whatever project you're delivering, when the business says, "Well, that's not how we do it,"
Yeah, that's true.
you know. And then and then also there's things like Salesforce limits, and a lot of structural metadata behind there, as far as like I had to explain to somebody building AI here that tasks, events, activities, and Salesforce is kind of all the same, and all the different objects and how they actually store it in the background. So you don't get every task, right, when you go in to get it out of Salesforce, because they were like, in 10 years, you only have like 400,000 a task. It's like, no, because those are actually stored on the back end. You have to go to a different object. So I share a lot of ERDs and diagrams with the AI people and explain Salesforce nuances, but there's no guidebook for anybody. So that's for us as data people, where we think we're, you know, a lot of times we think we're going to be irrelevant with AI. We're that much more important, right? Because we know all the little things nobody else does about the data.
Yeah, the first steps before we make sure, like in order to make sure the AI is working, we need to first clean the data.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know Lauren's been really quiet on this call.
Oh, Lauren's mic is not working for some reason. We
Oh,
cannot
I
hear.
was going to say she probably has some stories too.
She definitely has stories.
But
By the
yeah,
way, those of you who don't know Lauren, she is also Hey
I
there.
love
Pretty good. Yay.
She is
Yeah.
also a CRM Analytics ambassador.
Next, I'm going to have you talk. Next meeting that we have, like, I want to hear some of your wild stories with the AI projects you're dealing with.
Lauren, we still can't hear you.
She's just having a bad. Mercury is still in retrograde until the end of the week. So your mic.
Maybe she has double muted herself or
We'll see.
something.
Yeah, but I'm almost, you know, it's, oh, hey.
Hey.
Yay.
Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you. Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, well, it's funny because I was saying something earlier and I was going to speak up too on, it's interesting on the AI side of things, you know, I mean, obviously some people have been more involved in it for longer than others, but it, as a whole and generally, even across the enterprise organizations I've been with, it's still fairly new. It's like, you don't have like a very large base of tenured folks who are using AI or who have implemented AI or who have like done, I mean, there are, but it's like sometimes even within a company, they were on one side of the business and then they kind of got thrown into, or now they're managing AI for a line of business or a side of it. And because they were kind of in that space, but it wasn't really their background. So it's very interesting to me, how, it's changing kind of for folks across the organizations. And then from a user perspective, like the enterprises that have picked up and started utilizing it, even from their business owners, like right out the gate, it's changed a lot. But some of the other data issues, it's funny because I'm working on this AI like go-to-market AI strategy for someone right now. And they kind of like want to walk in and bring this solution and this go-to-market solution for AI. And it's like, well, hold on. You can't just like, there's so many other things that need to be aligned, and like, what is their data landscape, and do they have, do they have governance, do they have all these other things? Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the space right now. I was kind of quiet, but I was present, and there I just feel like there's a lot of
talked about more with all of us data people in the middle of, we're like refereeing the AI coming in and every meeting. So this is important for everyone here. The number one question I get asked by any team that's either already built, trying to build, or exploring is, if I hear RBAC one more time, role-based hierarchy, like, you can't have Salesforce proprietary information outside of Salesforce. Like, everybody wants to recreate Salesforce outside, especially the hierarchies. And then they want it real time. And then they don't want to use Salesforce native products. Like, we're going to take we're going to zero copy all of Salesforce and put it back together again, over and name your tools, right? And yeah. I don't know if you're dealing with that, but it's like so unnecessary.
What is changing a lot too with like all the headless and the MCP, like that, like it is changing a lot also, just being from a platform, from a UI side, and now how much you can do with your data strategy via API, which was available obviously in Salesforce before, but it's making it like that whole headless. It is changing kind of the landscape, I feel like, for businesses who are jumping on, who are doing that. And I don't know, it kind of depends the industry, I think. But some folks are
those API terms of use that they just updated last week is probably the single most important thing everybody needs to read. I read it and was completely shocked at what they changed in there.
I did not know that when you said it. I was like, oh, I need to go look into that.
I can put the link in here if you guys want, but it came out to us like as a notification to just like administrators. Mm-hmm. It was very kind of under the radar. And the first thing I did was call Salesforce, said, this is so in legal terms that I need this to be reviewed with us. And then it's like, it's getting to where it's going to box us in to use their own products.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing too
have always been free. They're not going to be free forever.
Yeah. And like your AI strategy, are you locked in a certain way? Like when you go, depending on if you're going data cloud or how you have things. Once you get in bed with data cloud, you can't get out.
And so that's where like you have to be super creative right now, and you also have to kind of like look 5 steps ahead. So everybody's on the call like this right now, where it's like, okay, I know my data, I know what's messed up, I know what they're trying to do, I know what Salesforce is trying to do out in the big broader world. What are the limitations? So you're having to kind of like an upside down pyramid, start from the bottom and go up and look at so many things, and then people are like, but you're just like a data person. And it's like, no, I'm like the watchtower for what you're doing, trying to save you in the future when what you build does not scale.
Yes.
And that's why I'm more of like a data psychologist these days, or behavioralist, because
enterprise psychologist.
Yes, like enterprise data psychologist. Yeah. It's kind of, look at this ink blot, and like half of what gets put on my plate during the day, I don't know about everybody else, but I get these teams come to me with wild stuff. I mean, you might as well have a Rorschach chart, and they're like, what do you see when you look at this? And I'm like, I see nothing but like a lot of problems, and I don't want my August ruined.
Okay, right? I'm going to stop the presentation.
Yeah.
One, I think they have, I hope,